Oh, hey, hi, who are
Well, I can officially welcome you to Hey Hi, Who Are You?
you?
And so this is Aanika Ruutopõld, and we've known each other basically since I was born, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You were
Helmi and
there in
I,
the room. No.
yes. Helmi and is Marika's older sister, and she and I have been friends since I can remember, especially like since 3 years old for sure.
Yeah.
And our dads were best friends in high school and are super big skiers together. So I don't know, just kind of family friends forever.
Yeah. No, you can't get
Practically
away
full
from each
sisters.
other.
Yes, yeah.
And where are you right now? Where are we calling you from?
I am in New Hampshire right now with my family. Um, I don't really have a place that I'm kind of living full time ever. like, um, I move around a lot. So New Hampshire is kind of home base because my parents live here and it's
Yeah.
easy to come back to. But
And
I
you
around
move
all over.
around a lot because you do skiing adventures.
Yeah, I
Yes.
do, but I do love skiing and I do love the outdoors. And so I've been mostly doing seasonal life, which is where like it kind of started off by I was working at Glacier National Park in Montana, which is like one of my favorite places in the whole world.
So beautiful there. Oh my God.
Um,
Montana is like another world. It's so beautiful there.
yeah, I love it. And so that was like 4 months out of the year. And then you'd get about a month and a half to 2 months, and then a winter season would start somewhere. So like seasonal life was so great because I could move around to all of these places. I usually had the same sort of friends from one season to the other.
And
And
you'd
I
be
got like
ski
a month
patrol,
and a half.
or what would you'd be ski patrolling, or what was the thing you were doing?
One year I was ski patrolling, and then if mostly I was just serving or like doing any
Oh,
sort
okay.
of like I've been a barista, I've done a lot. Done a lot. And you save up all of this money and then travel for a month and a half to do amazing things, and then you go back to
That's like
something else and serve
the
forever.
dream.
But I think like it was just kind of wearing on me a little bit because it is very much a roller coaster where you are making a lot of money, but then that first like 2 weeks that you're back at work, you were completely broke. Like you were there desperate for whatever they can give
Yeah.
you. Um,
Yeah, like it doesn't give you much actual like agency. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like you don't get to really be choosy with the work you take because by that point you're like, I need money, I'll take anything.
I know a lot of people that have that just as their life, which is really cool. And
Mhm.
I could see myself kind of doing that for a long time because it is just so much fun. But at the same time, I was getting so stressed out with trying to find a job and trying to find housing every few months.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God. Yeah, moving and stuff is so exhausting. Oh my God.
it's fun at the same time, but it's like I just couldn't. And I was just having a frustrating time just losing a lot of my friends when I would go to a new place because
Yeah.
sometimes like there was a core group when I was moving from Glacier National Park to Steamboat Springs. Like that was what most people were doing, like going between those places.
Right.
But you would always like lose one person along the way that's like, hey, I'm gonna go to this different park, or they're settling down somewhere else. And suddenly like I'm losing like all of my closest friends right now live all over the world.
Yeah. Which is
And
super cool, but also like how do you have like
my community.
a stable community? Yeah, yeah. It sounds
And with
almost like you're like a concert groupie.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's sort of how it is. And it's just with the quarantine, I didn't really feel it as much. It was definitely something I was conscious of, but when when the quarantine hit, suddenly I wasn't able to go and travel to see my friends like I had plans. Like usually I have like a week here or a week there going to go and see friends or like long weekend to make all of those memories and to catch up and everything. And it's
Yeah.
been about a year since I've seen anyone. And
Ugh,
like it's been so tough.
no,
uh,
totally.
and so with all of this, I'm like, I really just want to find a place that I love that offers me mountains and skiing and cool people. And I want to just like put down roots. But then of course there's this other side of me that's like, I kind of want to do van life and just like post it for another year just so I can go on adventures.
So.
I mean, I still have a lease in Ithaca, New York, because I moved there last May. Yeah, May time to start working as a stonemason at one of the.
Tell about that. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Let's see, how do I even start with this? Like, I guess I was interested in getting into construction because of skiing, because construction has a very harmonious like schedule to being a ski bum, right? Where like most of that is happening in the warmer months.
Yeah.
And so, and then it slows down during the winter months, which means that I could work really hard during the summer times and then make enough money to like chill a little bit more, or even just like, I'd love to get back into patrolling, ski patrolling. And so that both of those jobs, I could still do seasonal life without it being as hectic and all over the place. Like I can still live in one spot and work construction and then work ski patrolling and then.
Yeah, that's like actually kind of best of both worlds. Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started. And so I went and did a fall semester at Yestermorrow, which is like this design, like this really small design build school in Waitsfield, Vermont.
Cool.
So the whole program, super cool premise. It was this idea that there was like I can't remember, like 12 students or something like that. And you start off by learning a lot of basics of designing, and then you design something and then you build it. Like we designed and built an entire dorm for the school, which was like a big project usually.
That's a huge project.
Oh yeah, I mean, we didn't get to finish it completely. And so like I still had like a few issues with the program, but overall I got to learn a lot of really cool things. I'm now very confident with a hammer. So
well, and wasn't there like some sort of sustainability focus in it too? Like how
they're definitely very sustainable focused. And then I did a separate program called with Passive House, which is
that was
an international certificate program where the idea is that you're building a house with elements that cause the house to be so airtight, if that makes sense. So like the windows are really good insulators and there's no cracks in the like barrier whatsoever. So tight that you're not using any power to heat or cool the house.
Right. Like it's perfectly ventilated in just the right way that like it's cooling itself, but it's not letting out heat in the winter and all that. Yeah, okay, cool.
Exactly. So like even the way that your windows are facing or the roof pitch or something like that, all of that is taken into account for that one specific site and what your house is like. And then
so I guess it's like very custom work then, because because it wouldn't work like where my house is wouldn't work the same as where your house is.
Like, there's definitely a kind of basic form that you could kind of just, as long as you're orienting it towards a certain thing. But so I'm very interested in sustainable practices throughout my whole life. Like that's very, when it comes to a lot of issues, right? Like there's a lot of issues with healthcare and issues with racism and issues with capitalism, like all of these things that I'm very aware of and trying to work to like better the world. The thing that I'm mostly focused on is like environmentalism. That's like
and I feel like all of those things like fit into that though. Like there's all of those big like wicked problems or whatever you call them are like so totally interlaced. Like you can find connections throughout that. But like
there, to do any one thing better, you have to work on all the other things to be better too. Like one of my favorite podcasts is How to Save a Planet. It's on Spotify. It's really good. And it's very, I don't know, it helps like access this idea of environmentalism and explaining things really well. So it's like, it's a podcast that is talking about environmentalism, and it talks to a lot of scientists and sees where the progress is going right now. And at the end, they're like, so how bad is it? Like, do you think that we can be saved? And a lot of scientists are like, yes, we just have to do action right now. And this is
so it's kind of like action based, like, but still positive. Like, yes, we can actually make a change. Like, not like the ice caps are melting and we're drowning.
Okay, now go and be sad forever.
Yeah, now go wait for your death.
I get like so anxious about it, but
It's like all of us just sitting there, us in like the Bernie Sanders position, waiting for this apocalypse.
one of the hosts with How to Save a Planet is a Dr. Ilana Johnson. I can't remember her first name, but she is a Black woman, and one of the things that she talked about is how, like, she'd love to go and save the world, and she's working really hard to do that, but a lot of the time she's also dealing with racism.
Yeah,
And
so like the doors for her to be okay, the doors are closed for her to be a hero. Does that make any sense? Yeah, like people aren't even letting her into the conversation to try and save the world. Yeah, so then in that way, like environmentalism and racism are totally linked. Yeah, like totally.
Absolutely. And it's like so many people could be doing something meaningful, but they're worried about where they're going to get their next paycheck.
Yeah.
So
I guess going back to what so your job in Ithaca was it like just construction based, or was it passive house related, or
So how I got in contact with these guys was because my Isa, or dad for non-Estonians,
muggles?
Muggles, non-Estos, how dare you? My Isa went to do a passive house design program at the same school that I went to for my design build program.
Oh.
And he met the two brothers that own the company that I work for. And at the time I was looking for work and didn't have anything planned. And they're like, hey, like, you should come here. We're always happy to have people, and especially environmental. So they have the certification for design build and passive house, and they're always trying to be as environmentally conscious and sustainable. So I'm super happy to work for them. And they were like, hey, want to move to Ithaca? And I was like, no. And then weeks later I was like, I think I'm going to move to Ithaca.
Actually, I was going to switch gears a little bit. And because you mentioned that your Esau, your dad, took a course at the same place you took. So wait, so what does he do for work? And your Emma is a graphic designer, right?
Yes.
Yes.
My Isa works at a, what do you call it? Just, you're a mechanical engineer, right? Mechanical civil engineer.
Okay, cool.
So that's what he does, and the program that he did was just for fun and interest. So we just kind of got interested in that, and we think it's a really cool thing, and I would love to get more into it, especially if I move out west, which is the plan. I grew up there for quite a while too, so a lot of it is sort of home to me. I was there from like 11 to 17,
right.
10 to 17, so very formative years, as people say.
Yeah.
And I miss it a lot. So
I guess what I was trying to ask before that I didn't end up asking was what was it like growing up with like two really creative parents? Because like I know your dad like is an engineer, which isn't like a creative industry, but like that is a very creative and inventive like job. And your Emma is a graphic designer.
I think.
Is that your cat?
Yeah. But yeah, so I feel like I have two parents that are like the logic and the creativity, and I have both of those. Like I loved math growing up because I was really good at it, and there's still a lot of that and like we pulled out the whiteboard every night when I had difficulty with math questions. Like so my Isa was really great about that, and then my Emma was really great about just like we always talked about like different creative parts. She's been super supportive about all of my ideas, like whatever passions they are for the month, because they change a lot. But I even like I've never done graphic design, but I still have a very almost graphic design brain. Like sometimes I will look at a logo and I'm like, that's awful.
Yeah. Well, like, you know what good design looks like because of your Emma. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And even small things were like seeing patterns, which I feel like is both logic and creativity, not to like just completely separate them. Like it's all
no, they're very much a
grayscale, but like parking next to, like we have a blue car it's very important. Like sometimes it's like if there's 2 blue cars, it's very important to be right next to the other blue cars so that there's 3 blue cars. Or maybe that's just like tiny bit of OCD that I have. I don't know, but I very much like notice all of those tiny pattern things. And so my passions and interests have varied. Like I went to university, the University of Vermont in Burlington, and I went in for zoology.
I don't even know if I knew that. That's really cool.
I don't think many people do because it didn't last long, but like I have, yeah, it didn't last long. That's all. But I have a big interest with animals and was interested in getting like veterinary sciences, sure, but I was more interested in like doing research with animals and like being in the field, sort of what Hedemy does, but now, but back then I wanted to do something like that, and then didn't really get the help or support in school for that, and just got really confused, and then I changed it to biology, which I really liked. So very science-based again, and loved genetics. I still love genetics. Like genetics is one of those subjects that I wish I could have gone further in, but then I had to deal with chemistry, and chemistry like really liked drop kicking me like every semester and just like, oh, you need me. Like, so I struggled a lot with chemistry and eventually changed my major and minor, like switched them around. So I graduated with nutrition and with a major in nutrition and a minor in biology.
Oh, okay. Well, so then you kind of made a bunch of changes, but in the end, it probably seems like it worked out at least. I mean, would you want to use that like in some way in the future, or is that kind of like you've changed your whole life plan?
I always change my plan. I feel like when I had to change my major minor for the last like year, so I had to do an extra semester. At that point, I was like, I'm gonna do this just so I can graduate. Like, I was just so done.
Yeah, well, at that point, you're like, just give me the piece of paper. I don't care what it says on it.
I'm so done with this. College was super tough for me. Like, it did not work for me whatsoever. And like that structure, just so bad. But so I finished it. Like, I finished, and that was all that really mattered to me. And as much as I still love nutrition and I'm still really interested in health and like fitness and all that sort of stuff, like I still read a lot of nonfiction books about nutrition, and it's really fun for me, but I don't see myself really going into that anymore now, and then like more of a personal thing. So like I still like to kind of experiment with different nutritional things to see what makes me feel better. Like last year, 2020, I did 2 months, one in January and one in August, doing the Whole30, which is 30 days of eliminating foods that can cause inflammation.
Oh, okay. To kind of figure out what makes you feel better in the end.
And so 30 days of doing that, and then after that you slowly add in each of those elements. So it's like you get rid of gluten, dairy, sugar, peanut, what is it? Legumes, and I don't know. There's a few, like there's a list of things.
How there's like a voice from God that says legumes.
Legumes. And I really wanted to see what was happening, and realized that, guess what? The big three, sugar, gluten, and dairy, do make me feel kind of crappy.
Oh,
so
really?
So now.
So you have any of those anymore?
No, I still eat a lot of ice cream.
Okay.
But I have more of the choice now, I guess, because
now you know that like when you're choosing that, you're not choosing the best for you, but like if you like, I know what you mean. You're like more aware of it at least.
Yeah. So generally, like my diet is lacking those, and then every once in a while I'll have like, we made banana bread, so I've had some banana bread.
Yeah, well, you don't like. You also don't want to like cut yourself off from like having a fun life. Like you're not gonna be like, ice cream never again.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of those things that like nutrition is still very much in my life. I just don't think
it is a job. I mean, I feel like a lot, like especially with like people like you and I who have like a lot of hobbies and interests, I feel like most things aren't going to be a career, but that doesn't mean you wasted your university like time learning it. Like you can still use it in your life. It doesn't mean it's like
and I think that's a big part of just like living in what they call a late capitalistic society, where everything that you do has to be profitable. And I don't agree, and it shouldn't be, but there's a lot of pressure that if you should be spending your time trying to make money, especially because you're not making a lot of money. I'm not making a lot of money. let me just, not everyone does, but like all of the time should be making money because you're not making it all that much at work anyways. And so any sort of hobby that you have should also somehow be profitable. Like you should have an Etsy shop. And I think those are great because there's so many things where I love it and I want to buy that sort of thing. Like I want to support my friends, but at the same time, like it's exhausting. I think
not everything has to be a hustle. Like I constantly fall into that trap of like turning everything into a side hustle, and like I shouldn't be upset that this podcast probably will never make me money, but I'm having a great time doing it. And like, so.
Exactly. And I think there's, especially, so it's mostly like for my doodles and drawing that I like doing. Like I've always been a drawer, and I've had.
Do you have some you can show us?
I do.
If you want.
Not in a very long time. Like I have journals, and I usually like sketchbooks, and I usually write when I start them and when I finish them. And so some journals will be like a year and like the whole pages are filled. Started this one August 13th, 2019. And I am, let's see, this far in, and most of it isn't even.
That's not bad, especially considering like I feel like I didn't draw at all during 2020. Like my like creative juices were just like gone. I think I drew like 2 things.
It's depleted for sure. But for me, this is like not much, and most of these are notes too, like not even drawings.
You do it as like a journaling kind of thing, or is it more just like relaxing, or what's your kind of sketching feeling?
So I have a lot of different journals. Let's just start with that. My friend thinks I'm kind of crazy because I separate my journals into very like specific things. Like I'm a creative person, but I'm also very like anal about certain things.
So
that makes sense. A bullet journal. I have a thankfulness journal. I have a journal where like I write thoughts and feelings. And then I have a sketchbook, and then I usually have like another like notes, like random notes that don't really fit in anything else. And that's almost like constantly in rotation. So, but when it comes to actually drawing, not that I've done it in a while, but usually it's something I can do with my hands while I'm watching a movie or something. Because by the way, if I haven't mentioned this yet, like I have ADHD, so like a lot of these things are kind of fit into those categories. Folding paper cranes, that's been a weird like niche project.
Really?
I have. Yeah.
How many do you have? You have tons?
I have 500 so far.
500? Yeah. Wait, so are you doing that whole 1,000, like what's that thing? Yeah, like the 1,000 paper cranes.
1,000 paper cranes. I think it's once upon a time read it in a book when I was like 14 years old, where someone folded 1,000 paper cranes, and you're supposed to get like a wish.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to do it for no reason other than I don't even like think about the wish part of it. Just like I want to fold
something to do. Yeah.
So that's what I usually do, because it's very, once you get it down,
you can just go. It's like knitting with paper.
Here is exactly for YouTubers.
Ooh, did you draw the custom front?
Yeah.
It looks very Tolkien.
It's very, I love American traditional tattoos, and so like tattoos in general are like usually my inspiration when I draw things, because they have those dark lines and the kind of black ink and everything, which I really love. So I'll show you the one that I'm really proud of in here, and then I'll show you some fun ones too, because let's start with the fun one, because I like this one. It's a frog.
Oh my
doing yoga.
Cute. Oh my god, his little feet in the coffee. He's so cute. I would get that tattooed. That's adorable.
So cute. Yeah. It's just, again, a recreation of someone else's art. But and then this one was the one that I worked really hard on. Like, it took me hours to do. But like,
whoa, that's really cool. So is that just a photo you found on Pinterest and you were like, I am going to draw this?
I'm going to draw that. Yeah.
Really
the smoke
cool.
is really, really hard to do in pen. Like, in pencil, you can kind of do shading, but shading is so difficult with pen.
Mm-hmm. No, it turned out really cool.
Thank you. I'm really
Are you
proud.
one of those people that like draws with pencil first and then pen, or are you just a pen?
I'm just a pen. I'm not the way that I kind of do it, which is not the way that most artists do it, is I don't really do a lot of sketching beforehand. Like, I don't do outlines or anything. I pretty much focus on one area and then add from that and then add from there. My friend was really encouraging. She's so encouraging about a lot of the things that I do, but especially my art, my friend Sage. So if she's listening, which I'll just send it to her. Thank you so much. So she's really encouraging about my artwork. She was the one to tell me to like start an Instagram, which I did, but then I lost the account information for, so it's out there if you want to see it. I think it's called mountain.raven.inc.
Oh yes, I follow it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have access to it anymore, so
I bet you could figure it out somehow, but
yeah. But and then she was also really encouraging about like getting, like, I have been interested in getting into tattoos, but I realized very quickly, like, I do not want to be a tattoo artist as a profession. It's so stressful.
Well, yeah. Oh my god, it's like being a surgeon. I mean, no one's dying, but like it's kind of like,
No,
it's like an emotional surgeon.
The shake of the hand, and I'm like a kind of shaky anxiety person anyways. Like, it would just, and that goes on their skin. And even if, yes, people are going into it realizing, like, I usually tell them, because I have a tattoo machine, so I can tattoo people, and I do.
You? Oh, you do? Cool.
Yeah. Oh. But at the same time, it's so like, I will go, people are like, hey, can you do a tattoo? I'm like, of course. And then I'm like, wait a second, what if I mess up? And then they're going to always look at that tattoo and think of me as the idiot that tattooed them. And so that's why I don't ever want to be a tattoo artist. It's also like a lot of work at first.
Yeah, well, you have to be like kind of an intern for like a really long time to like get your hours in, and then people can officially like trust you and blah blah blah.
So, and then going to the next page. Oh, also, I made my own logo, which is this. This is the sticker.
It's so cute. I love it. It's so retro.
Yeah, it's a very kind of retro ski look. For anyone on Spotify, it's like my name, Aanika, over a blue triangle, and then a skis in that kind of like pink neon. And so I actually made that. I don't know how to do like Illustrator or Photoshop or anything like that, and I'd like to teach myself at some point, but I was impatient. And so when I injured myself back in October, I suddenly had all of this time to work on this project I've been meaning to do forever. And I started off with my logo, and here is the thought process a little bit. I kind of knew for a while that this is what I wanted to do when I first started thinking about this. Like, this is the idea.
Yeah.
And so I drew it out. Here again is like some test out.
And then you just cut it out like from actual paper. That's so cool.
Yeah, cut it out from actual paper. Here it is right there. And put it, and then I took some of my origami paper, so there's going to be 999 origami swatch frames. But I took that, did a triangle, posted that, and then I tried really hard to figure out what I wanted to do for my name, and I was getting really frustrated. And then I just took a picture of the logo on Instagram, and then used one of the just fonts on Instagram, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, it actually turned out really cool. Like it has a very unique feel to it because you did it in such a like unconventional way.
So, like, very backwards. All of these people that like do Illustrator and Photoshop are like, oh my god. But it's like,
it looks very like tactile because it is actual paper.
Yeah.
Like it's cool. It's different. I like it.
Yep. So that's that. And then I would like to, at one point, do a banner for my YouTube channel, but that is going to definitely take a little bit more. But the whole idea would be sort of like that, if you can see, where like one side is like a small hill and the other side is really big hills, because the whole idea of this project is I'm trying to ski all of the ski hills in North America, which is a lot. There's about
Yeah, do you know how many there are?
I need to get like a more accurate number, because right now I think it's about 640.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not thinking about it. There's about 640, but that number isn't exactly accurate because some of them are closed, some of them are possibly going to reopen. And by the time that I actually get to them, which is like, this is a lifetime project. By the time that I actually get to the end, there's probably going to be a lot less because of environmental issues and because it's expensive to keep a really small ski hill open. So a lot of these places close down. So, you know, good for me to finish this project, but it also sucks at the same time.
How many have you officially done so far? Do you know?
I've done 5 so far, which is small, but I think.
But you've skied more than that. You just haven't videoed them.
Yeah. I mean, what's really crazy about all of this whole project and that I'm coming to realize is like, I could ski things really quickly, right? If I had all of the money, I could go and ski all of these different places like that. And I would get it done if I really focused on it in almost like 5 years.
Yeah.
But the limitation is money, is timing. And then also for me to edit is taking so long. Like, I know it's going to get faster, but I'm completely new to video editing.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I'm learning a lot every single time. Like today I did a little work on a time lapse, and I had to like look up like how to do a time lapse on iMovie because I don't know how to do that. And so I'm learning things all the time, but it's also the last one that I just released one on Friday. And that one, I like actually counted the hours that it took me to do, and it took about 20 hours. So,
oh gosh, it will get shorter, but yeah, like, I mean, yeah. Well, and it totally depends on like how much footage you get, right? Too. Like, how do you normally do it? Do you have like a GoPro and you film the whole time, or like what do you?
Usually, maybe not the whole time, but generally like as much as I can, because you never know when it's something that I want to add to it.
Yeah, like you see like a moose on skis and you're like, oh my God, I wasn't filming.
Or like someone says something hilarious and I'm like, oh no. And, then, and that's something too where I have like issues with my own project and like my whole idea of this, because yes, I want to bring light to all of these different ski hills. And yes, I want to take videos of my time out there to remember myself. But at the same time, like, I have issues when it comes to like documenting every single thing that you do and sharing it with people.
Yeah, like it's a fine line of like, why am I doing it? And is it like causing more mental health issues by trying to share everything? I know, like, what's too much sharing and what's like, where's the boundary? I don't know. I feel the same.
We live in a society where it's very normal to be talking about like our innermost thoughts. And I think that there's like a really good part of that, because like with social media and with people being so open, there's a lot of like, oh, like more people like that have these same thoughts that I do, have these issues. And so like, oh, and these are the ways that you can fix it. And
yeah, or like finding community is a lot easier now, I think, because like you can literally search skiers and you find hundreds / thousands of people that have the same interest as you, and that's amazing.
So as I get more into it, I'm going to try and find like the line between just skiing and having fun with my friends and my family and what I want documented all the time. I had this idea to ski all of North America's ski hills like 2 years ago. And I think it was when I was out in BC, I was looking at some ski hills, and I was remembering this really small ski hill that I went to called Phoenix out in British Columbia. I was like, wow, like I've never actually heard anyone else talk about that, but I know I've been there, and I looked it up, and then I was like, I wonder what other small places are around me right now. And I looked up all of the ski hills in British Columbia, and then that got me started on looking at all of the ones in Alberta, and just like this crazy thing. And then I was like, it'd be really cool to like try and ski all of these small places. And maybe
I feel like it's like a cool like thread, like especially since you do move around so much, it's like a nice like constant, like you have this goal always going on, like it's like a constant thread of things to like look forward to, because you know you're gonna keep working on this project basically forever. So like it's like even if everything else, your goals change in every other aspect, like this is one constant one, which is kind of cool.
Like as long as I'm around mountains and snow, which I don't see myself living in a place that doesn't have at least something.
Yeah. Not in the prairies.
No, not really my thing.
I guess we could switch to a lighter topic for a moment. I've been asking everyone who's on here what their favorite movie is. Do you have a favorite movie?
I mean, Pride and Prejudice 2005 version is probably.
Wait, is that the one with yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So
are you in love with Mr. Darcy?
I mean, yes. I think it's the music and the subtlety of everything. It's just, I could watch that movie so many times and I'll notice something different every single time. It's just beautiful. Princess Bride is that. There was a time in my life where I watched that almost every single day. Like I'd say like when I was like 13 or something like that. And now I still really, really love it, but
like literally every night you're like, marriage.
What brings us together today. And then I really like Mad Max Fury Road. I think that's.
Is that the one that came out a couple years ago, or is that an older one? Because
Tom Hardy.
Yeah. Can't go wrong.
But like, that's one of those movies that there's like no plot to it, right? The plot is pretty much they go out into the desert to escape these people, and these people run after them, and then they realize they don't want to be out there, so they go back.
That's the whole storyline.
Yes, but it's so good.
Now we know what happens.
It's so good. It's just like all of the action. I mean, I love action movies. I love Italian Job, which I actually watched the original Italian Job recently, and I could not watch it.
Oh, when is the original from? Is it like
1969?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like 60s movies are hit or miss. Like they can be really cool, or they can be really like awkward and basically like not watchable.
Yeah, it was just like it was very much like a man's fantasy where it's like really fast cars and being a thief or like a spy or something, and then all of these women are all over you, and I was like, I don't like it.
So you don't like James Bond?
I mean, I'm not like, I enjoy those because again, there's like some action sequences that are just so good, and like those little heist parts or like the trick of a hand. I mean, I really enjoy them, and I really do love fast cars, and like women are great. Like, I don't hate on any of those, but sometimes when there's like with the original Italian Job, what I was watching was that it was like he came back from a job, the main character, and his girlfriend was like, hey, like I got you a present. And he walks in and there's like all of these models with like nipple tassels and like weird like lingerie, and they're like, hi. And she's like, have fun, I'll see you later. It was so weird.
In what world is that normal? What? Yeah. What?
So
I see what you mean by like a weird man's fantasy that you're just like, I don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah, I mean, I love movies. I think I'm definitely in a place where I watch a lot of movies that are very comforting to me and not many new movies.
I feel the exact same. I read something that was like people with anxiety like rewatching and rereading things. Yep, me too. I was literally rereading a book last night that I've read probably 10 times just because I can start anywhere in the book and I feel comforted knowing what's going to happen. And like I've literally watched New Girl and Gilmore Girls like how many times? I don't know.
Friends is the one where I watch all the time.
You literally sound and look like Phoebe, so I
I know, I get that all the time.
No, thank you.
But then on the other side of things, I love watching scary movies.
Me too.
So again, I think people that like scary movies, another weird article thing was that people that like scary movies are generally anxious people too, because they feel like they can watch a scary movie and get those feelings and then also but control that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of the same.
It's like anxious people being into true crime, I feel like. Same
yes,
kind of yeah, which I very much am, which I think you are too. Yeah.
I don't listen too much to My Favorite Murder, but I
listened to all of it.
Yeah, I love And That's Why We Drink and Morbid.
I finished My Favorite Murders book yesterday, the Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered, the definitive how-to guide. I finished reading it last night, but then the book I've read a million times that I was reading last night also is called, I don't know if anyone would have any interest in this book, but I love it and I love this author. It just like it feels good. So the book is called Flora's Lot and it's by Katie Ford, and it's like this old British lady that writes really well written small town romances. But why I love them is because the main storyline isn't the romance, it's what the girl is doing in her life. Like she's always either learning something or like doing something really cool by herself.
I will add it to my list because I like reading a lot, and I have been getting a lot more. Like last year I read 48 books, which is like,
oh wow. I feel like we kind of already touched on mental health, but I don't know if you have any like actual like thoughts or tools or feelings to share.
Yeah, so I have ADHD, which I was actually just diagnosed with last year at 26. So I'm a late diagnosis.
Isn't it a lot of girls get diagnosed later than men for some reason? Like
yeah, because they're like men and women have they're very different in their way of exhibiting ADHD, probably like societal things, not so much brain chemistry, although it's probably part of it. And so a lot of people kind of go unnoticed for a really long time. And then I think my situation of the way that I grew up also made it that I was unnoticed for a really long time. Unnoticed is not the right word. It wasn't an issue for a really, really long time.
Well, like you were succeeding overall, like you didn't fail out of school or like anything like, yeah.
No, I was a very successful student in school. And part of it was because of the programs that I was part of. Like it wasn't a very typical school program. Like when I was in elementary school, I was at a very small, like, I don't know how to describe it, but they focused a lot on being outdoors, on giving kids lots of different projects. And so like, obviously I loved it. I love learning. Like I still do, but school scares me now. So
yeah,
all of the class sizes were super small. The biggest class that I was ever in was 13 kids.
Oh yeah, wow.
So like, the teachers had so much time to focus on a child. Like I was so lucky to have that opportunity. And then I moved out to British Columbia and they just started a program for an academy for skiing. So I was actually a guinea pig when I first moved there. I was like, sure, why not? Like I've already moved, might as well start this weird program that they haven't done before.
Yeah.
So the ski academy allowed for ski racers and freestyle skiers, and then they eventually added a snowboarding academy and then a dance academy too. So it was people with sports.
Wait, that was where you went to school?
Yeah. So it was part of the high school. Sort of.
Okay.
It was in the high school building, but
cool.
It was kind of its own separate program.
Yeah.
And so it allowed me to train for ski racing 5 days a week. And all of my classes were online, which worked so well for me, because the more I realize it, the more it's like, it just makes so much sense that I have ADHD, and that was so good for me, because having all of my schoolwork online meant that I could do everything my own pace, right? Because there's some days that I, like, my brain cannot function and I can't focus on anything to save my life. And like sometimes that's like multiple days, but being self-paced and not having to go by anyone else's rules, I could literally skip those days pretty much.
Or get all your work done in one day because you happen to be having a really good brain day that day. So you're like, you kind of work in bursts, I guess, is how
and it worked. That's why it worked so well for me, because that's just generally how my brain works. And it functions like
so lucky that you got to be in those two programs that, like, because I feel like a lot of kids with ADHD, especially if it goes undiagnosed, just kind of suffer because they don't know, there isn't another option for them to be put into. Like, thankfully you were put in an environment that was conducive to you, which, like,
I didn't I didn't realize that anything was really wrong.
I mean, I wouldn't say something's wrong. I think it's just different. But
not so much that people need to be fixed at all with that. Like, people with depression, like I have depression too, I would like to fix that. Right? Like, that's something that, like, I would not like to have. Thank you very much. ADHD, it's like, I'm really happy that the way that my brain sort of works. I just wish sometimes it would sort of fit into like the expectations, because there are things like I have to work, right? Like, I have to focus on something. I have to do taxes, even if I can't seem to focus on it or have interest in it. So I didn't really realize that there was any trouble until I moved back to New Hampshire for my senior year of high school. That was when things got really difficult for me.
Because then you weren't in your program anymore. You were back to like normal.
I always blamed it on the move, just because it was like I moved across the continent to a different country for my my last year of high school.
Which is hard in and of itself, for sure.
But I think the struggles really came with the fact that suddenly I'm back into a normal school environment. And that struggle still happened through college. College was so hard for me, because not only did I never really learn how to study for exams, because none of the exams that I ever did before were difficult for me. Like, I would just like know it or just not know it. I don't know. Like, and so college was suddenly like harder workload, back to that weird like regular school programming where it's
every day, whether or not you're ready.
You have to do it. This is the hour you have to do it. If you're not here for that, if you're not like focusing for that, you miss it, or you have to work extra hard to get back to it.
But you did it. That's amazing.
I did it. That almost killed me. Like, it's just so bad. But so ADHD wasn't diagnosed until last year, and mostly like I was going to therapy to deal with anxiety and depression, which now, so I have like 3 things, but most of those 2 things kind of stem from that one thing.
I feel like those are very connected. I think that makes a lot of sense, but not that makes it better, but it makes sense.
It does make sense, and that just it making sense was like a huge step forward. They're all things that I'm still kind of working through.
Have you gotten to go to therapy during the pandemic? I feel like a lot of people had to fall off the therapy wagon, which really sucks.
So I actually started going to consistent therapy in the pandemic, which is...
Oh, right. Yes. Nice.
So I hadn't really seen anyone consistently. I saw like one person. I saw maybe 2 different people in college when things were like at its worst, like really, really bad. And I was like, something's wrong, help me. And then I was like, oh, I'm better now, bye.
Right? That's the classic issue of therapy. I'm exactly the same. It's like, you're like, I need help. And then you reach out for help in like your desperate moment. And then when you feel a little bit better, you're like, oh,
I don't need that. So that happened in college. And then the same sort of thing happened, but like I moved around so much, so I didn't really have those options of getting to see anyone consistently. But now I'm using BetterHelp
Is that like an online thing?
BetterHelp, it's a It's all online. So you do video chats and you can text someone and you have a therapist.
Oh, that's nice.
It's so good because like with the pandemic, it's amazing. But also with my lifestyle, I can travel and still have
The same
weekly.
person.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so far it feels good so
Nice.
far. And then I'm also like doing new medication, which I know like first of all, mental health in general is not always the sort of thing people want to talk about, and then medication isn't always what people
I know
want to
people
talk about.
like for some reason medication people always treat it as if it's like this weird thing that like we can talk about mental health, but let's pretend we don't get help for it.
And so it's a very weird thing, and it's like I do agree that not everything should be medicated. Like I
Yeah.
think we have so much ease where it's like, oh, that's wrong, here, get medicated. Like
Yeah,
instead
no,
of
definitely.
all of these different things. But sometimes, especially when it comes to mental illness, like it's so hard to try and fix all of the stems of things when everything is out of control anyways, right?
Mhm.
Like you gotta like get rid of it somehow, and medication can help, and then maybe when things are better because of medication, you can start working on those things that are causing that, which
Yeah,
again,
it's kind of like putting out the fire, and then you can kind of rebuild from there. Like, so at least you have like a foundation to build on. Because if if your brain is so completely like out of whack and nothing is regulated, well then like how are you even supposed to go to therapy if you can't even get yourself to go to therapy because you're so like anxious?
That's a
You
whole
know?
nother, like, one of the reasons why it took me so long to go to therapy was because I have a problem with calling doctors.
Literally, my therapist right now is literally I haven't opened her email since December because I just I couldn't get myself to open it. I was just like, I don't know. I don't even know what she said. I haven't read it. I don't know.
I feel you.
Like I think like with mental health and anything, like there's no like winning with it. Like it's gonna always be something that like maybe something works for you this week, but maybe in 2 months it won't. And like I don't know, it's kind of a constant like checking in with yourself, and like hopefully being able to ask for help is like step number one.
I honestly think that like everyone should go to therapy.
Everyone.
Like there's so many, like
I know.
and it doesn't mean you have an issue. It means that you're human. It's like you going to the doctor doesn't mean that you're sick. It means that you have a body and you want it checked up. And
Yes,
like,
and it means that you're actually are taking care of it before you have a problem. The whole point, yeah, it's like I agree. I really don't like, especially with men, which like I can't say that I know, but like the whole thing of like them being like, well, no, I don't need it, and like I'm not emotional, I don't need to go. It's like no one's saying any of that. We're all just saying you should talk to someone.
The fact that you're not emotional is the problem.
Is the problem. I know. And also like with like even like couples therapy, like the whole idea, it doesn't mean that your marriage is failing. It means you want it to work.
Yeah,
that's all it means.
When I have kids one day, I want to have like the regular practitioner to help them with like health stuff like that. Yeah. And then I want kind of like once a year we go to like they have their own therapist, someone that they can talk to that isn't me, that's an adult, that's safe, like all of these things that they can talk to and have a relationship with. So it's like once a year or every 6 months or something like that until they want something more, and then they can go to that person for
at least to like have like a taste tester of like, oh, this does exist and maybe this helps me, or maybe it doesn't, but maybe if it does, at least they've had that opportunity to try it and like know that there is someone they can call and
try it sometime.
I mean, you got to try with different therapists, sadly. Like I went to one and I remember thinking like, this is not helpful. I was like, you don't understand me. But like some of them do, and like you kind of have to, that's the sucky part though, like you have to get past the shitty ones. Not that they're shitty, I don't mean anyone's bad, I just mean some that don't suit you, and then like keep going and try the other ones. But
and that's exhausting sometimes too, but
totally, especially if you're in a really like dark place. And
mental health is one of those things that is like very, very important and brings like talk about it all the time, and I'm very happy to talk about it. But at the same time, it can really, bog me down. It's intense.
Oh yeah, no, it's It I mean, it rears its head in every part of life, so you gotta like talk to it when you can, and then be like, no, shh, when you're busy with other stuff. Okay, yeah, let's end on a happy note. What can we? What are your kind of future plans for the next little bit? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm still working really hard on my Aanika skis videos, and so skiing and working all of that. And
Do you
then
have any videos like already filmed that you're working on editing right now?
yeah, I have 2 of those. I am working on 2 of them. I was working on one this morning. And then I'm also doing a lot of writing because I've always wanted to be an author. Like,
Ooh,
I even knew it was a thing.
what kind of writing?
Usually a lot of fantasy is like where I am usually at. Like, so I have, again, like a lot of ideas. I never run out of ideas. It's always just the motivation to like work on them.
Or like the space to focus on one and not get like caught up in like pulled in every direction. I feel that way all the time. I mean, you can see my sewing projects in the back that I've abandoned.
All over the place. Yeah, everywhere I look, I'm like, oh yeah, something different that I had interest in for a week and then left.
Yeah.
Yeah, so writing is one of those, like I wrote stories as a kid.
Me too.
And I wrote a lot in high school, and finally getting back into it. The big goal this year is to finish a first draft of one of my books.
Oh, wow. Wait, that's huge.
Yeah, very big. So I have all of these ideas of things that I would want to do just for work, but I also don't want to work. Oh, it's fine. But I've always also had the like, I'll do this and I'll also be a writer. Like that was always like the side thing.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's not surprising that you didn't know that I was interested in writing because I don't talk about it that often with people. And then when I tell my friends, they're really excited about it too, because I have a friend group actually that we have I don't know how to describe this, but we all have superhero alter egos.
Oh,
it started off as like a fun game where we were like, if you were a superhero, like what would your power be and what would your name be and like all of these things, and then we just kind of really got into it. It's like become completely separate characters, like inspired by us. So yeah, I'm really trying to focus on that, and I would love to be able to do it. It like seems to like fit a lot of the things that would work for me, where it is self-paced, I am being creative, I can take it wherever I want to go, and
that's really cool. Is your superhero character in your book, or is that completely separate? No.
That's completely separate.
Yeah.
I also, like, the way that my brain works is very story-like. So, like, when I dream, my dreams are almost always stories. It's very rare that I'm, like, the main character in my own dream.
Oh! That's like a TikTok thing, like... I am the main character in this neighborhood. You're just the side character in the neighborhood.
Yeah. So I have a whole like document that's just my dreams that are stories that I want to like develop more.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyways,
well, that's very exciting.
Lots of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you have tons of like big projects going on actually.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on here. I mean, I know that like being on a random podcast is super random and sort of.
This is my first like interview. First of all, like I just love supporting my friends and all of their endeavors. Like
well, and now when your book comes out, then everyone knows about it. And also anyone who's interested in skiing might not have probably didn't know about your vlogging, and now we can tune in.
Even for people that aren't interested in skiing, I really like that don't know anything about skiing, I'm really trying to have this be easily accessible to people. If all you see on Instagram are amazing videos of all of these pro skiers going down intense lines and doing backflips and stuff like that, how do you get into something like that?
Yeah, so you're kind of like the ground level approachable version of that.
I hope so. I'm just trying to. But yeah, if you aren't a skier, please check it out. I'm on YouTube at Aanika skis.
You have an Instagram too, right, for Aanika skis?
That one's, I think, Aanika_skis.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, I'll link it anyway.
And it's 2 A's at the front.
Yeah. So. Aanika for anyone listening who doesn't know. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on here, and it's so nice to talk to you for not just on TikTok.
Really awesome. Oh, last thing, I know you have to pee, but I would really recommend the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She talks a lot about creativity, and not just in the creativity for artists, like well-known artists, but for the everyday, and create like having passion in your life for things that aren't the everyday mundane. If you're not much of a reader, I would recommend watching her TED Talk. So just look up Elizabeth Gilbert. But yes, thank you so much, Aita, and I'll talk to you later.
Yes, I will. Talk to you later.
Make sure to follow on Instagram and TikTok at heyhiwhoareyou.pod to stay up to date on new guests and new episodes.